The story starts in Denmark during a period when stability was hard to find. A small-town carpenter named Ole Kirk Christensen made furniture and household items by hand. Work depended on local demand. Income was inconsistent, and every order mattered. Then economic hardship arrived. Orders slowed. Customers disappeared. Many small workshops closed entirely. Instead of waiting for better conditions, he began experimenting with smaller wooden products, including toys. Most people copy tactics, but the frameworks behind them are in an ebook called The System Before the System. Link is in the description. They required less material, could be made in batches, and appeal to families looking for inexpensive entertainment. Imagine a modest workshop filled with sawdust, simple tools, and hand-carved figures lined up to dry. It wasn't a toy empire, it was survival. The company began as a response to economic pressure, not as a grand vision. Early success came from quality rather than scale. Christensen believed children deserved well-made items, even if they were small. That philosophy shaped the workshop's reputation. Parents trusted products that felt sturdy and safe. But progress rarely moved in a straight line. Fires destroyed parts of the workshop more than once. Each time, rebuilding required money and energy the company barely had. Every setback forced a decision: rebuild again or stop. They rebuilt. Over time, the workshop grew modestly, helped by the involvement of Ole's son, Godfred. The family business started thinking more about processes rather than individual crafts. Could toys be produced more efficiently without losing quality? Then a new material entered the conversation: plastic. At first, the idea was controversial. Plastic seemed cheap compared to wood. Many toy makers avoided it. Yet the material offered something powerful: precision. If shaped correctly, pieces could fit together consistently. The first plastic toys were simple and far from perfect. Early designs lacked strong connections. Some customers preferred traditional wooden toys, but experimentation continued. The shift to plastic was risky, and success was not guaranteed. The breakthrough came when the company focused on a specific concept: interlocking bricks. Instead of one finished toy, children could build many different things. Creativity moved from factory designers to the user. This was a subtle but important change. The product was no longer the final object. The product was possibility. Engineers refined the brick design repeatedly. Tiny adjustments improved grip and stability. The goal was compatibility. Pieces bought today should fit pieces bought years later. That decision created long-term trust. Families felt confident investing in collections knowing they wouldn't become obsolete. Yet outside the workshop, the toy industry was evolving quickly. Television advertising increased competition. New gadgets and trends appeared every year. Many companies chased novelty, releasing products tied to short-lived fads. Lego, by contrast, leaned into permanence. While competitors chased trends, the company focused on timeless compatibility. Growth followed, but not explosively. Expansion required careful decisions about manufacturing capacity, distribution, and international markets. Mistakes could be expensive. The company gradually moved beyond Denmark, entering neighboring countries first. Packaging improved. Retail partnerships expanded. A consistent visual identity helped customers recognize the product even without reading text. As demand increased, the company doubled down on quality control. Slight imperfections could ruin the way bricks connected. Manufacturing precision became a competitive advantage hidden behind playful design. Then came a new challenge. Success brought pressure to diversify. Executives asked a familiar question: should the company expand into more types of toys or stay focused? The answer shifted over time, leading to experiments with new themes and play experiences. Some ideas worked, others did not. The core brick remained strong, but expansion created complexity. Managing too many product lines strained resources. Costs rose. Inventory grew harder to predict. Growth created new problems that creativity alone couldn't solve. During the late 20th century, the company reached global recognition. Theme sets, storytelling elements, and large boxed experiences attracted new audiences. Creativity merged with narrative. At the same time, video games and digital entertainment began reshaping childhood. Screens competed with physical toys. Industry analysts questioned whether traditional construction toys could remain relevant. Internally, the company tried to adapt quickly. New product categories launched. Experiments multiplied. Some innovations lacked clear connection to the original idea of open-ended building. Ironically, the pursuit of growth started pulling the company away from its core strength. Financial pressure increased, sales slowed, complexity made production less efficient. For a moment, the future looked uncertain. The company nearly lost its way by trying to be too many things at once. The turning point came when leadership reevaluated what made the brand unique. They simplified operations. Product lines were reduced. Focus returned to the brick as the foundation of the entire experience. Instead of abandoning new ideas entirely, they connected them back to the core building concept. Partnerships with entertainment franchises introduced storytelling while still relying on construction play. The brick stayed central. This balancing act worked. Familiar themes attracted new fans while longtime customers still recognized the DNA of the brand. Behind the scenes, manufacturing became more efficient. Digital design tools improved planning. Communities of builders emerged online, sharing creations and inspiring others. The company realized something important. Customers weren't just buying toys, they were joining a creative ecosystem. The comeback happened by simplifying and reconnecting with the original idea. The brand expanded into films, games, and experiences, but unlike earlier diversification attempts, these extensions reinforced the core product rather than replacing it. Every new channel pointed back toward building. Education also played a role. Teachers used construction sets to explain engineering concepts. Adults rediscovered building as a hobby. The audience widened beyond children. Meanwhile, consistency remained central. Pieces produced decades apart could still connect. That long-term compatibility built trust rarely seen in consumer products. Financially, the company transformed from a struggling manufacturer into a modern entertainment and learning platform. Yet the core principle stayed surprisingly simple. Give people tools to build their own ideas. In business terms, Lego turned creativity into a scalable model without dictating outcomes. Customers provided the imagination. The company provided the language. The comeback succeeded because the company empowered users instead of controlling them. Today, the brand exists at the intersection of design, storytelling, education, and community. It competes not just with toy companies, but with digital platforms competing for attention. And yet physical bricks endure. They slow people down. They encourage hands-on thinking. They bridge generations. Looking back, the story is less about a toy and more about resilience. A carpenter adapting during economic hardship. A risky material change. A near collapse caused by complexity. A recovery driven by clarity. The company learned that growth without focus creates friction. Innovation works best when anchored to a clear identity. Even the smallest brick reflects that philosophy. Each piece is simple on its own, but powerful when combined with others. That idea mirrors the company's history itself. Small decisions stacked over decades, creating something much larger than any single moment. The lesson isn't just for toy makers. It's a reminder that long-term success often depends on consistency, adaptability, and the willingness to return to fundamentals when things drift too far. And perhaps that's why the brand continues to resonate. It doesn't tell people what to build, it invites them to start building. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can make more content like this. See you in the next video.